Shabbat shalom, everyone. Another full house. Great to see you all. Thank you all for being here. As you have heard yesterday, Rabbi Hodson, Sammy Mazuz, and I had the privilege of welcoming a whopping 6 individuals into the covenant of God and the Jewish people. Woo! Now, I've only been on a handful of Batei Din for conversion so far, but each time I find the experience to be very, very moving. Hearing their stories and the ways that Judaism and God have called to them, witnessing their willingness to take such a brave step, puts my own Judaism in perspective and helps me value the beauty of the religion and the peoplehood that I am a part of. While each individual comes from their own background, has their own reasons for taking this step, listening to their stories, a number of themes, shared themes, emerged. A couple of these new Jews spoke about how the story of Breshit, of creation, was one that cosmically drew them to Torah and continues to inspire them. We had 2 converts choose the same Hebrew name, Yosef, on the same day without consulting each other, each for their own distinct reasons. But one element that came up in almost every Beit Din was that they connected to Judaism's comfort with an encouragement of questioning, of wrestling with God. 2 of them specifically referenced the story in Genesis of Jacob wrestling with a man, angel, or God's very self in the middle of the night. That action in the story led not to punishment, as maybe one would expect, but actually to blessing. The blessing of being given the new name of Yisrael, one who wrestles with the divine and the human and is victorious. Others may not have referenced that biblical scene, but they still expressed their relief and joy that our tradition does not ask them to stifle questions or erase all doubts. Rather, only to be in the ring, wrestling with important questions of Torah and with God. In our Parshat, Eikev, Moshe instructs the people to love God, to walk in God's ways, and to cling to God. This will ensure their success in the conquest of the land and in all their endeavors. In a midrash in the Sifrei, an early compendium of midrashim from around 200 CE, the midrash asked, how can it be possible for a person to walk in God's paths? To answer that, first the midrash asked, what are the paths of God? The response is the 13 attributes of God's mercy. Adonai, Adonai, God merciful and compassionate, and etc. And so the midrash concludes, just as the Lord is called merciful and gracious, you too be merciful and gracious. In academic circles, this is known as imitatio Dei, as imitating our Creator. This is the way that we walk in God's paths, as if God's own actions had traced a path for us to follow. Many of the new Jews expressed the divine pull that brought them to Judaism and Torah. It was as if God's self had paved the path for them to walk on this new journey. Now they have the blessing of continuing that imitation of the divine in a new stage of their lives as Jews. The Midrash continues with the next phrase of the verse, instructing the Israelites to cling to God. Taking this instruction literally, the Midrash is again astonished, asking, how can a human being cling onto God? Is it not written earlier in Deuteronomy, for Adonai your God is a consuming fire? According to the Midrash, God is just too hot to touch, no less to grab onto. Basically a midrashic warning to the kids not to try this at home. However, the answer given to the question of the meaning of clinging to God is, I think, astounding and unexpected, getting us to the heart of the way that we as Jews wrestle with the divine. The Midrash uses God's own voice to clarify this requirement to cling to God, with God explaining you should cleave to the sages and to the disciples, and I will consider it as if you had ascended the heights and taken the Torah, and not as if you had taken it peacefully, but as if you had waged war and taken it. And thus it is written in Psalms, you ascended on high, you took God's captive. Whoa, quite a bold statement. Rashi on the quoted verse from Psalms says the you who ascended on high is Moshe, who went up high to Sinai to receive the Torah. Though in this verse it is a much more aggressive action on Moshe's part to basically steal the Torah from God and bring it down as a prisoner. Thus, in our Midrash, the way to cleave to God is to come close to the teachers of Torah and their students. Why? Because in a certain sense, the sages are the new Mount Sinai, the nexus point where we receive Torah in our day as Moshe did in his day. Again, though, the picture here is not of well-behaved students of rabbis, simply listening politely and quietly to their teachers and memorizing their sayings. According to this midrash, Torah means war. Learning from and arguing with our teachers today makes us in God's eyes like Moshe, bounding up Mount Sinai and wresting away the Torah against God's will and taking it prisoner. In this midrash, the word cleaving, clinging, is not pictured as merely hugging or embracing with love and affection as the literal meaning may suggest. Instead, it brings us back to Genesis and Jacob's wrestling match with a mysterious divine figure, where he refuses to let go unless the figure will bless him. The blessing God or the messenger gives is Jacob's new name, Yisrael, God wrestler, our namesake as a people to this day. Now, we may be uncomfortable with the comparison of Torah study to a war where prisoners are taken. In some ways, it is the opposite of the statement we just sang about the Torah as we returned it to the ark, affirming that all its ways are pleasantness and all its paths are peace. But for me, as for these new Jewish individuals, those two things are not in contradiction. The Torah is indeed a way of peace, whose goals are peace in our families, communities, and the world. But understanding and growing in Torah, in knowledge and wisdom, cannot be achieved without some level of passionate drive, of interrogation, of disagreement. We can only learn so much by simply being quiet and well-behaved. The Torah and God are asking us to get engaged in our Judaism, to wrestle with it, to challenge it, and to be voracious in our pursuit of knowledge as if we could lose it. Our new Jews appreciate and understand this gift of our heritage. Our faithfulness to God is not jeopardized by the questions that we ask. The brilliance of our heritage is that our faithfulness is in fact enhanced by our challenges to it. It trusts us that through healthy pushback and the struggle to understand our faith and our practice, help us become deeper, more mature, more nuanced, and holy. The Torah is there for us, but it is not always as simple as just opening a book. We, like Moshe, have to scale the mountain to receive the Torah for ourselves anew and fight to wrest that knowledge from God, from our teachers. May we all be as hungry and as liberated by the freedom to question in our tradition as our new Jewish individuals are. May we not forget that to learn from the Torah, we must challenge it and dig deeply to understand its wisdom. Through that holy struggle, may we merit to be able to cling directly to God, to gain wisdom for our lives, and to truly live up to our namesake, Yisrael, the people who wrestle with God and man and prevail. Shabbat Shalom.